We arrive on planet Namek, where instead of it being the traditional cast of characters that we know of, Vegeta's brother Tarble is now coming alongside his brother Vegeta to planet Namek, and we're going to see exactly how these events will play out. Guys, just remember to smash the like button and subscribe to this channel if you are new, and make sure to turn on mobile notifications. Check the YouTube community tab page here for this channel, where you guys never miss any uploads, just in case YouTube doesn't send them out, as well as general Dragon Ball posts, memes, art, gifs, all that stuff on there. Without further ado, let's get into part 4 of the story. For some general background information, most events throughout this entire story as a whole, not even in this video, but the other videos as well, are still going to play out similar to how they played out in the actual canon timeline. But like I said, Vegeta's brother Tarble now being there is going to throw a monkey wrench into some events, and certain things aren't going to play out exactly as we know of. But for the most part, the same timeline is going to be in order, but the events, what characters survive, what characters maybe die, all that stuff is what's going to change throughout this story, with now Tarble being introduced. So Vegeta going to planet Namek with his brother, still the same wish, the same ambition, wishing for the Dragon Balls, and that's all going to be very close and similar to that of the actual story. Only this time now he has his brother Tarble for help, and he's actually going to use Tarble in this story, on this planet, in this arc, to actually help him fight whoever he comes across, as opposed to sidelining him like he did during the Saiyan saga. Now keep in mind, while Vegeta was slowly recovering, and once he got back up to full strength, he began sparring with his brother again. Unfortunately for Tarble, Vegeta was taking a little bit of his frustration out on his brother, for the simple fact that Vegeta really considered that he lost to Kakarot, and of course we know how that does to Vegeta's pride, and he had no one else to take it out on. He was just with his brother the whole time, so he took it out on Tarble. So again, this is kind of beating into that eternal struggle that Tarble has, wanting to follow his older brother, but at the same time not wanting to embark in the evil deeds that his brother seems to be embarking and pursuing. So Tarble's character is still extremely torn, following his brother and sometimes wanting to go his own way and no longer follow his brother, but he doesn't know anything else. He's been with his brother since the beginning. He wouldn't even know what to do if he was by himself, which is why he feels stuck in this situation. So throughout this arc in this story on planet Namek, Tarble doesn't really want to fight the Namekians. He sees them as decent, honest people. He doesn't see why they have to fight them, why they even have to kill them in certain situations, like Vegeta obviously has done in this story. Tarble struggles with that. In fact, he can't really kill any of them initially. It's not until Vegeta steps in and says, "I will kill you if you decide not to kill them," and obviously by that guilt alone, Tarble is like, I have no choice. He does eventually end up slaying some innocent Namekians, and this really affects Tarble mentally. He's like, what have I become? What are we doing? Why are we killing these innocent creatures, these innocent beings? They have done nothing to us. And Vegeta's keeping on his path. He's keeping on his same direction. So after Tarble slays his first Namekians, he is extremely torn, extremely upset with himself, upset with his brother, and he wouldn't tell Vegeta that. He just flies away. He flies away. He doesn't know where he's going. He's extremely tearful at this point, and Vegeta's like, I'll just let him go, because Vegeta's still in his quest to retrieve the other Dragon Balls. He figures he'll meet back up with them at some point. He's continuing on with his mission. Goku eventually arrives on planet Namek, and again the events play out as they do in the regular canon story. Goku's absolutely destroying everyone, going through the Ginyu Force, Yaze Blase, right? All those events play out the same. Well, now we get further into the story, and this is where things really kick up. Now we get to the part where Frieza is finally really introduced in a fighting sense, and now we get that combat sequence of Frieza and Vegeta. Only this time, Tarble is also going to be there now. And what's special about this sequence is Tarble actually witnesses his brother not really putting up a fight that he thought he would put up against that of Frieza. So keep in mind, Goku is still recovering from his injuries, as we know of, and like I said, Vegeta and Frieza are going at it. Tarble, again, watching on the sidelines, still torn from what his brother made him do earlier, but now at this current point in time, he has to be there to defend and back up his brother against this tyrant Frieza, who is now effectively becoming the real adversary, the real antagonist, obviously an enemy for the Z fighters and cast in this story. The events play out the same way as they do in the canon story. Frieza is too much of a match for that of Vegeta, and Vegeta's essentially killed. Now, what plays out differently in this scenario is that instead of, well, nobody else snapping really when Vegeta dies and Goku saying, okay, now it's my turn to fight you, Frieza, Tarble is the one to actually snap. He's like my brother, and despite the fact that Vegeta's made him do terrible things that he never imagined he would do, Vegeta is still his brother at the end of the day. That is still his older brother. They have been with each other since they were small. Tarble has always looked up to his older brother, and watching Vegeta get killed right before his eyes sends Tarble into an absolute rage. In fact, Tarble has his own Super Saiyan moment like Goku had when Krillin was slayed by that of Frieza. The anguish, the rage, the frustration of watching his brother die right before his eyes allows Tarble himself to actually turn into a Super Saiyan, or at least a false Super Saiyan, I should say, only temporarily. He then launches an array of attacks at Frieza, which seems to have Frieza on the ropes. Keep in mind, Frieza is still nowhere near his full power strength yet. So, despite the fact that it looks like Tarble may actually have an advantage here against Frieza, it is short-lived, as Frieza is then eventually able to turn up the notch and essentially humble Tarble, so to speak, and Tarble eventually is going to fall the same way that his brother Vegeta did. Well, maybe not quite. Goku actually comes in at the last minute to save Tarble and spares Tarble. Obviously, Goku has no gripes against Tarble, even still knowing that Tarble was there alongside Vegeta on Earth, and he really didn't join in on the fight like he would have wanted to. It's all about his brother, because Vegeta told him during that Saiyan Saga moment to not fight, stay on the sidelines. This is my fight with Kakarot. I don't want you helping. So Goku's aware of Tarble. He knows that's Vegeta's younger brother, and again, he feels like Tarble's kind of in a crappy spot, so he has no real gripes or qualms with Tarble. Goku tells Tarble to back away. I'll handle it from here. You've done well fighting Frieza. It's amazing what you were able to do from watching what just happened occurred, and I wonder how strong you could be. You know, Goku's typical stuff. I really wonder how strong you'll be if you continue to train and you continue to really hone in on your fighting skills. He's essentially giving Tarble kudos, saying you've been able to do what none of us have been able to do to Frieza so far. And obviously that gives Tarble some hope. He's like, wow, this low-class Saiyan warrior that my brother has hated and has talked about and talks about all the time is actually giving me a compliment, something my own brother has really never done for me. So obviously this touches Tarble in a very warm spot, because like I said, Vegeta's never complimented his brother before, so to have this stranger that Vegeta hates compliment Tarble, like I said, this gives him the notion of, wow, maybe this Goku, maybe this Kakarot, I should say, isn't really as bad as I've been believed to think. Maybe he's actually decent. Of course, Tarble, again, is so conflicted with so many emotions. You know, his brother made hhim kill innocent Namekians, and he watched his brother die. Then he fought Frieza, then he got defeated, thought he was going to die. Then this stranger that his brother hates gives him a compliment and says that, you know, he did better than anyone has so far fighting this dictator, this tyrant Frieza. He is absolutely conflicted with so many emotions right now, but he takes Goku's advice, he steps aside, and he lets Goku jump into the mix to fight Frieza and have that battle that we know of in the moment where eventually Frieza does kill Krillin, and that allows Goku to tap into that rage, that frustration, that anger to turn into a Super Saiyan legitimately. Not the false Super Saiyan that Tarble tapped into earlier in the story, but the actual Super Saiyan transformation itself for the first time in Goku's life. Tarble is able to sense this power along with Gohan as well, and Gohan's like, whoa, who is that? That's got to be my dad. And Tarble is like, what? Is this the power of the legendary Super Saiyan that my brothers always told me about? So of course that whole thing is going on in Tarble's head, again, even more conflicted with emotions. Goku senses that Tarble and Gohan have not left the battlefield where him and Frieza are, and he yells at Gohan the same way he does in a traditional story. He says, go, get out of here before I lose any sense of, you know, sanity I have left. And he tells Gohan to take Tarble along with him as well, and the two Saiyans fly off. And now we come to the battle of Goku and Frieza, and those events actually do play out the same way as they do in the traditional story. So what do we take away from this part of the story here in this Frieza saga with Vegeta's brother Tarble? Well, for one, Tarble was forced to kill innocent Namekians, something he didn't want to do. Two, he had improved a little bit in strength because he was training with his brother Vegeta prior to their arrival on planet Namek, but unfortunately in that process Vegeta also took out a lot of his anger and frustration on Tarble for the fact that Vegeta lost his battle against Goku on planet Earth. Number 3, Tarble watches his brother die for the very first time right before his eyes, and this sends Tarble into a rage. He doesn't quite tap into the legitimate Super Saiyan transformation, but he taps into false Super Saiyan, and up until that point, he was the only fighter on planet Namek that was able to give Frieza the hardest fight that he had to fight prior to Goku obviously coming in and then those events playing out as we know it. So with that being said, Tarble is still alive, Vegeta unfortunately is not. And now we're going to head back to planet Earth with the android and the Cell saga, and this is going to be very interesting because I've always felt like the android and Cell saga it's an enjoyable, actually they're enjoyable arcs. At the same time they can sometimes be convoluted, and that's what a lot of people say in the community. I like the arcs. Gohan and Cell, awesome moment. Gohan's a savage, but as well it's just kind of a lot of just inconsistencies and just running amok, running about, so to speak, in this arc. So I'm going to try to simplify it to the best of my ability. Obviously with Tarble being the main focus of this story, that's where we're going to try to simplify things, and we'll see exactly how the android and Cell sagas will play out with now Tarble being there alongside his brother Vegeta, and of course we know future Trunks will be making his first introduction into this story in the series as well.